Life is short.
I love you.
Love is forever.
Will you marry me?
But you never know what the future holds. Until it hits.
It's a meteor shower.
This new one you're tracking, how big?
It's what we call a global killer. Nothing would survive, not even bacteria.
The United States government just asked us to save the world. Anybody want to say no?
You think we'll get hazard pay out of this?
United States astronauts trained for years. You have 12 days.
You stick that in me, I'm going to stab you in the heart with it.
On July 1st,
Tell me you've never let anybody down before.
I never quit yet. How's that?
Earth's darkest day
How you feeling? Good. Considering I've never been this scared in my entire life.
will be man's finest hour. Bruce Willis, Billy Bob Thornton, Liv Tyler, Ben Affleck, Will Patton, and Steve Buscemi.
Whoa! This is so much fun, it's freaky!
All the time in the world
We have 18 minutes to zero barrier.
is all they've got.
We all gotta die, right? I'm the guy who gets to do it saving the world.
Armageddon. A Jerry Bruckheimer production, directed by Michael Bay.
Hello and welcome to Unclear and Present Danger, the podcast about the political and military thrillers of the 1990s and what they say about the politics of that decade. My name's Jamelle Bowie. I'm a columnist for the New York Times opinion section.
My name is John Gans. I write the Substack newsletter on Popular Front. I'm the author of the book When the Clock Broke. And I can now announce that I've begun work on a new book called Crackpot Empire, Lyndon LaRouche and the Conquest of America. And
I'm
it's
very
about-
excited about this. As someone who was once accosted by LaRoucheites in Washington, D.C., this excites me. But also, it feels like a natural progression from When the Clock Broke. Just sort of like,
Yeah.
yeah.
There's a way to keep it thematically similar without really doing a sequel. It's a very strange story. It was a very strange guy, very strange movement, and they had ended up in a lot of weird places. And I'm very excited. I mean, I've already gotten a lot of people who are members of LaRouche's organization reach out to me and want to talk. So I think I already am a little overwhelmed by the reception I'm getting, which is great. But I'm going to have to do a lot of interviews.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really exciting. I mean, there aren't, as far as I know, there really isn't any work of kind of like either history or like ethnography or anything about the LaRoucheite movement. And so this might actually, I mean, this between the interviews and the archival research, this could be sort of like a real like addition, right, to sort of like our knowledge of American politics in a way that kind of hasn't been done before. So I'm very excited.
Yeah, me too. I'm really hoping. There's one book. It's old. It's almost 40 years old. It's a little polemical, and obviously I have a take on these people, but I'm really hoping that this is going to be like a work of scholarship as well. So I'm excited about it too. So yeah. Okay, well, that's what I got going on.
On this week's episode of the podcast, we are not discussing Lyndon LaRouche. We are talking the 1998 Michael Bay action picture Armageddon, a movie I saw in theaters. I remember this very distinctly. I was at summer camp, and we went to I was on base. I grew up basically on a military base. Longtime listeners know this. New listeners may not know this. And for on-base summer camp, we went to see Armageddon. And I have a distinct memory of seeing that movie in the movie theaters. Directed by Michael Bay, like I said. A screenplay by Jonathan Hensley and J.J. Abrams. Adaptation.
Of what?
Of what? Yeah, that's
The book Armageddon, Armageddon, the novel by Tolstoy.
Adaptation of the Apocalypse of St. John.
Yeah, right.
I don't know what this is an adaptation of, but it says adaptation by Tony Gilroy.
You know what? It may be that they work. That's what they're called. Did they like work on the script after?
They might have worked on the script.
Done a rewrite.
Yeah, rewrite of the script. If the script was Hensley and Abrams, they might have rewritten it. So Tony Gilroy, past and hopefully future guest of this podcast.
Yeah,
and Shane Salerno did the adaptation. And the story is by Robert Roy Poole. So all this is telling me is that a lot of people worked on this movie.
Yeah, and probably it was passed around for a lot of different production.
Yeah. Cinematography by John Schwartzman, who I'm looking at his background real quick. Kind of just like a guy who works, a lot of blockbusters. A lot of Hollywood stuff. He's worked with Michael Bay just a couple times on Armageddon, and then the Michael Bay's follow-up, Pearl Harbor, which we will do on this podcast. A movie I've never seen, but I hear it's terrible.
It's terrible. Oh my God! All right, I guess we gotta do it. It's so bad. I saw it in theaters. It's so bad.
He also worked with Bay on The Rock. So Armageddon stars it. Just about everyone. This is very much a Bruce Willis picture. He is top of the list. Stars Bruce Willis, Billy Bob Thornton, Liv Tyler, Ben Affleck, Will Patton, Peter Stormare, Keith David, Steve Buscemi, and then you'll also see in this movie Owen Wilson, Michael Clark Duncan. Who else? William Fichtner, who has one of my favorite lines in this whole movie. He has space dementia. Eddie Griffin shows up as a bike messenger randomly. You got who else? Udo Kier as a random psychologist. A lot of people in this movie. Shawnee Smith, who degenerates will recognize from the Saw franchise, and I include myself in that number. And Jason Isaacs also shows up. This is a massive cast, a lot of people in it. And I think it's part of the fun of the movie. A very quick plot synopsis of Armageddon. A meteor shower destroys the space shuttle Atlantis and bombards cities, including New York, after which NASA discovers a Texas-sized asteroid which will hit Earth in 18 days, ending all life. NASA comes up with a plan. They're going to drill into the surface of the asteroid and detonate a nuclear bomb to split it so that both halves miss Earth. They recruit the oil driller Harry Stamper, and Stamper brings his entire crew, including AJ Frost, as Ben Affleck's character, who is dating Harry's daughter Grace. This is Liv Tyler's character. After 2 weeks of astronaut training, 2 shuttles launch. They refuel at a Russian space station, which is destroyed in an accident. They crash on the asteroids, one of the shuttles crashes, Independence, killing most of the crew. And then the other shuttle lands. And then they are in a race against time to drill a hole into the middle of this asteroid in which they will deposit a nuclear device to blow it up. They managed to do it when the Independence team, including Ben Affleck, shows up to provide additional equipment. They drill the hole. Turns out the detonator for the nuclear bomb is damaged and someone needs to stay behind and detonate it. AJ draws the short straw, but Harry takes his place, sacrificing himself to detonate the bomb just before the asteroid reaches the zero barrier, the point at which it will hit Earth. And they save Earth, and the survivors return home. I skipped a lot. There's a lot that goes on in this movie, but that's basically what happens. Critical reception. Oh, first, before I get into critical reception, the tagline for Armageddon was Earth. It was fun while it lasted. And I suppose there were other taglines as well, but that was the main one. The critical reception for this film was not great. Roger Ebert gave it 1 star and called it one of the worst films of '98. Quote, an assault on the eyes, the ears, the brain, common sense, and the human desire to be entertained. Janet Maslin of the New York Times called it, quote, jingoistic, overblown. And Todd McCarthy of Variety likened the editing in the film to a machine gun stuck in the firing position for 2.5 hours. On the other hand, quite famously, the Criterion Collection released a director's cut of this film.
Yeah, what is up with that? I never understood that.
Well, this is actually, I wouldn't say this is divisive, but this is like a running argument among film critics, which is like, what is Michael Bay? Is he just sort of like a meathead dumbass?
Yes.
Or is he an auteur?
No.
Or is he both? My view is that he's both.
Well, he has a style, I guess. Is that the only thing you need to be an auteur, is to have an identifiable style? I
think he has an identifiable style and point of view. But I think Criterion's on the Michael Bay as an auteur side, and so they have a director's cut, which includes a famous director's commentary with Ben Affleck and Michael Bay. Very good. So critics were very mixed on this film, but audiences were not. This movie cost $140 million. It grossed $554 million. It was a big box office smash in a year of box office smashes. 98 was a good year for the movies. So it had the third highest 4th of July opening weekend at the time, behind two Will Smith vehicles, Men in Black and Independence Day. It held the record for 4 months, but that was eventually surpassed by The Waterboy in November. It grossed $200 million in the U.S. and Canada, $352 million worldwide. And it was the highest grossing film of 1998 worldwide and the second highest grossing film of the year in the United States, just behind Saving Private Ryan. This was a big hit. Armageddon was released into theaters on July 1st, 1998. So let's check out the New York Times for that day.
Here's one. What's in our wheelhouse? McVeigh letters before blast show the depth of his anger. Previously undisclosed letters by Timothy J. McVeigh to his younger sister before the bombing of the federal building in Oklahoma City reveal him as a deeply frustrated, at one point suicidal, over his inability to confide the extent of his own anti-government activities to his family. Sort of a weird construction, but I guess we'll find out what they mean. Mr. McVeigh's letters, along with conversation in his father's house in upstate New York, revealed so much anger and alienation that when the bomb exploded on April 19th, 1995, eventually killing 168 people, members of his family suspected him almost immediately, they later told the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Mr. McVeigh's younger sister, Jennifer McVeigh, told investigators she had an eerie feeling that he was involved. His father, William McVeigh, said he had worried that his son would do something to get himself in serious trouble, and added that his former wife, Mr. McVeigh's mother, thought her son did the bombing. In a letter to Jennifer McVeigh dated October 20th, 1993, Mr. McVeigh said he was tormented by not being able to tell it all about his lawless behavior and anti-government attitude. He did not elaborate. At one point, he had gone to the house of their grandfather, who has since died, and considered killing himself there. I have an urgent need for someone in the family to understand me. I will tell you and only you. Copies of the letters and summaries of interviews by investigators were obtained by the New York Times. They provide new insights into Mr. McVeigh, who committed the deadliest act of terrorism on United States soil. The materials never presented at his trial last year. Interviews conducted by the FBI after the bombing show that members of the McVeigh family differed in their beliefs about what sparked the hatred, but they agreed that it began before the federal raid that ended with the deaths of 80 people at the Branch Davidian complex near Waco, Texas, an event that clearly aggravated Mr. McVeigh's. Yeah, I mean, the fact of the matter is McVeigh was already kind of into white nationalist and extreme ideology, right. And that's why he went to observe Waco to begin with. And that idea that, Waco is what pushed him over the edge is sort of slightly propagandistic, because it's meant to imply that, he was just a normal citizen, and then he was so upset by this Waco thing that he went and bombed the federal building. But that's not exactly what happened. They did a similar, kind of not sane washing, but what's the word? I guess you should just say whitewashing of Ruby Ridge guy, whose name I should absolutely know, considering I wrote a book about him, or there's a whole chapter in my book about him. God damn it.
Randy Weaver.
I watched even a PBS documentary about Randy Weaver where they basically they take his word for it that he wasn't really, a neo-Nazi. And he was just like, I was just, wanted to live and be left alone. And it's just beggars belief.
Yeah. Why would you take
I mean, I don't think that what happened to him and his family was right. But, in order to tell the truth about the thing, you got to say what he was doing out there.
We should for the Patreon, because it's going to be a while before we get to it on the main feed. We should do the movie The Order.
We should.
Yeah, we should do that. We should do The Order, and we should do talk radio.
Yeah, good idea. Great combination. Hong Kong surprise, politics steady, but economy falters. His hometown is marking the first anniversary of its return to China on July 1st, but Lun Wei Ting is in no mood to celebrate. Mr. Lun has spent the year without a job. On a recent sauna-like afternoon in the teeming neighborhood of Mong Kok, he stood before a government labor office, fruitlessly searching a bulletin board for job listings. When the British were here, there was a lot of business in Hong Kong, said Mr. Lun, a 51-year-old merchant seaman whose deeply lined face bespeaks both a lifetime at sea and a worrisome year as the unemployed father of four. When the British left, the businesses left with them. Of course, Britain's exit from Hong Kong has little to do with the economic downturn of its former colony, which sits at the crossroads of a becalmed Asia and has suffered along with its neighbors. But Mr. Lun speaks for many Hong Kong people who are being ravaged by rising unemployment, a 20% drop in the stock market, and a 40% decline in the property market. For this embattled outpost of commerce, celebrating the passage of a year under Chinese rule seems almost behind the point. Besides the point. Yeah, so in 1997, Hong Kong returns to Chinese control under the One Country, Two Systems agreement. Economically and politically, it stays more or less the same for that time, but there was the Asian Tigers collapsed in 1997. There was kind of a recession all across East Asian economies that had been running very hot up until that point. President sees risks to growth for China. President Clinton told American business leaders in Shanghai that corruption, environmental neglect, weak financial regulation, that's pretty funny, and restrictive trade practices threaten China's growth and full entry to the global economic system. In address to the American Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Clinton said the dynamic growth of the last 20 years had changed the lives of Chinese citizens, bringing more opportunity, but also breaking the system of guaranteed lifetime employee as payrolls at government-owned enterprises are slashed. China's economy is still burdened with complicated and overlapping barriers, Mr. Clinton said. He specifically cited the problems of inefficient state monopolies, weak legal and regulatory systems, wasteful and polluting energy patterns, corruption, closed markets, and poor supervision of the nation's banks. He added that he hoped that Beijing would make the difficult decisions needed to bring China into the World Trade Organization on the same terms that govern the other members of the global trading body. Well, they really showed him, huh? I mean, I think, China did make a lot of institutional changes and improvements in the way the economy worked. But, it's really funny to read these kind of condescending statements of American politicians and statesmen towards China about what China really needs to do. And now China is, an absolute behemoth in the world economy and perhaps overtaking the United States.
I'm always skeptical of that, though. I mean, we're not getting to get into China policy, but the extent to which sort of China is dealing with its own sort of like demographic issue. I mean, like China has its own I feel often from the American perspective, it seems like China's unstoppable, but it faces its own serious sort of internal economic and demographic issues. And it has a quite like brittle political system. she is also built a cult of personality that does not want to challenge him on things.
Yeah.
And my understanding is that has actually made it like quite difficult for the Chinese state to respond to some of its own challenges. So that's not to say that like the United States is clearly fucking things up seriously, engaging in sort of like hegemon suicide. So China could come out ahead just by default, but it's not hard to imagine an alternative world in which the U.S. does kind of reorient itself, and China can't necessarily work past its own challenges.
I mean, for sure, the country has. I mean, governing a country of that size and has deep issues, and they've already run into problems managing the economy. But the fact of the matter is, I mean, the productivity of their economy and creating manufactured goods, which are extremely high quality, like, what's happened in the United States since deindustrialization is serious because, like, we have lost the know-how, the concrete knowledge of how to do complex manufacturing. That knowledge it used to be that, people come and visit American plants to learn how, to manufacture things now. And we had a lot of kind of embedded knowledge that way. And since the closures of those plants, the people who knew how to do those things are gone, and the institutional knowledge is gone. So, I mean, China obviously overproduces. It creates too much housing. It does all these things. But if you look at Chinese city and how they're easy to make all this high tech transit, it does make us look pretty bad.
Yeah.
So I would say, like, I don't think that China's like an invincible. They have their own problems, but like, I do think that the U.S. has really neglected just remembering how to build things properly. And as a result, we have very bad infrastructure in this country. And they have the advantage and the disadvantage of a very tightly controlled, directed economy. So the state can be like, all right, we're going to build a bunch of shit, basically, and direct people to do that. We don't have that luxury. So I hear you, but I just really think, like, at this point, especially with this leadership and what they're doing, China looks much stronger. So, but they again, like, could run into serious problems. Anything else?
Yes, one thing. Birth rate falls to 40-year low among unwed Black women. Education and contraception are seen as crucial. The birth rate for unmarried Black women, long a focal point in the debate over the causes of poverty among African Americans, has reached its lowest point in 40 years, federal health officials said today. According to figures compiled by the National Center for Health Statistics, there were 74.4 births per 1,000 unmarried Black women in 1996, the last year for which complete data are available. That rate is significantly below the peak of 90.7 per 1,000 unmarried Black women reached in 1989. Today's report showed that the out-of-wedlock birth rate has been dropping for all age groups of Black women. Demographers and health officials said that some of the possible reasons, an increase in contraceptive use, sex education, and in efforts by some community groups to encourage abstention, should allow the trend to continue. Now, a few thoughts here. The first is that the out-of-wedlock births among Black women was like a bit of a political obsession in the 1990s, I think exemplified by welfare reform, which was framed primarily as an effort to stop giving handouts to Black women with too many children, as illustrated famously by the cover of the New Republic, I believe in a 96 cover. You can look it up. It's an infamous cover. I believe this is the Andrew Sullivan era, but
probably.
probably. So point number one, just wanted to make that observation. The second thing is it's just funny to me that out of wedlock births were seen as the major cause of poverty among Black families. It kind of gave rise. I mean, first of all, you have the infamous, or it's infamous a bunch here, the Moynihan Report from '67, which kind of is the genesis of a lot of the elite obsession with this. But the sort of 10 years ago, what was in vogue among conservative social policy types, a sequence of events: you graduate high school, you get married, then you get children. That comes out of all of this concern with out of wedlock births. I told you this, John, but I was at an event not long ago where I overheard a guy who works for the Manhattan Institute say something to the effect of, one of the things that got him interested in politics was concerned over the Black family. This guy, I should note, was not Black. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it was odd. Was it?
I think I know who it was. I'm not going to say his name on out loud.
Yeah, we can talk about it later.
Okay, later.
But this sort of concern with the Black family is often a euphemism for out of wedlock births, despite the fact that I think just a straightforward reading of American history would strongly suggest that the reason for higher poverty rates among Black Americans has actually relatively little to do with out of wedlock births and much more to do with deindustrialization and segregation, right? Deindustrialization destroys the economic base for Black communities, which are already segregated, and the concentration of segregation and poverty from deindustrialization is kind of like a social killer. It fucks things up, and you can look around the world and find similar conditions and you get similar results. If you look in the United States, in white communities that have no economic base and also are segregated from opportunity, you have many of the same social ills. And it's noteworthy that in the past 20 years, there's been much more attention to that. But no attempt to say, oh, these are two groups of people kind of experiencing the same equivalent set of social conditions with the same set of results.
Well, except if you're what's his face? Our vice
Charles
president,
Murray,
J.D. Vance.
Oh, J.D. Vance, yeah.
They both are lazy.
Well,
that's this whole fucking book. People forget is just shitting on his hillbilly relatives.
But that's the Charles Murray.
Yeah, it's the Charles Murray. Yeah,
the Charles Murray argument is, oh no, whites are becoming an underclass too, like the Blacks, right? So that's
their fault.
But yeah. I think the structural explanation does way more to explain than out of wedlock births.
Yeah, for sure.
I've always found it really unconvincing. And the one consequence of the relentless focus on out of wedlock births is this idea that every single Black family lacks a father. John, you would not believe how many people, when they try to insult me, or at least I know who my dad is, and it's I know who my dad is too. I lived with him for 18 years. Yeah. I see him multiple times a year, and I talk to him every week. He lives with my mother. And I myself, I big surprise, I grew up around a lot of Black people, and I actually don't know anyone from when I grew up who didn't live in a 2-parent household. I don't, that wasn't my experience. And I think there are many, many, many Black people who have that experience as well. So it's funny, the cultural kind of stereotypes that come out of this is interesting to me. The last thing, running long, but the last thing I'll say is we're kind of, it's big fertility crisis rhetoric these days. And you have Republican policymakers trying to encourage teen pregnancies at this point, but not among Black teens.
No.
They don't want the Black babies. They want the white ones.
Yeah, they didn't want teen pregnancies for so long, and now they want teen pregnancies. They got to make up their mind.
Got to make up their mind.
Yeah, and then they're like, "Oh, kids aren't going." They were so scared. Kids aren't going out and doing drugs and drinking anymore. They're upset about that now. I thought this is what you wanted. Anyway,
now Armageddon. John, you've seen this before, right?
Yeah. I saw this in the theaters, and I don't think I've seen it since. Honestly, I obviously this movie was a big event. It was a huge movie. Had the song, the Aerosmith song. Liv Tyler is Steven Tyler's daughter. She was a giant star. that fact was huge in the 90s. So yeah, I've seen it, and I hadn't seen it since. I always got a kick out of the fact that it was a Criterion movie. I did watch many clips of Ben Affleck's very funny commentary on the movie, talking about what it was like to work with Michael Bay. And yeah, watching the movie again, I was just like, okay, this is obviously better from like a technical standpoint and from a like, okay, this is a more entertaining, compelling movie. It's not like a drag to watch like Godzilla, but I felt like dumber. Like I felt like this movie was like killing brain cells. And from the beginning, there's something about the editing. It was like that comment about the editing of the movie, like the machine gun. It was like something about the editing. I don't even know how to describe it. It moves in such a way that's almost like, that feels like a stupid person's understanding of the world. And I realize that that's a little inarticulate, but it's just like it's just this like very, it works in the same way as the script, where it's these kind of like quips that don't quite land. It's just like all of these like quick cuts that are supposed to be like impressive. And you're just like, oh God, man. I would say on the whole, what I was really okay, there was a lot of other disaster movies at this time. So there was Deep Impact was the same year. There's Independence Day is not too long before this. There's all these fantasies about the world being destroyed, which become to be really interesting when you think about 9/11 isn't that far away. This movie is the most Republican movie we watched in a while. It's like this movie is spiritually libertarian and Republican. And this movie, I would say, the real object that was heading towards Earth, which nobody knew at the time, was, I think this movie in many ways is a preview of the mentality that brought George W. Bush to the president. This is a George W. Bush-ass movie before George W. Bush, and I will describe why I think that. But it just kind of has this combination of libertarian of kind of stupid libertarianism and belief in America, belief in a kind of populism, although it's very different from contemporary populism. Anyway, I just thought this was a very right-wing movie for a lot of reasons. What do you think?
So before getting into a couple of things. Yes, this is a very right-wing movie in its sort of like racial humor, such that it is, and in the objects of its contempt, right? In who it valorizes. This is 100% a right-wing movie. I mean, the world is saved by, men who represent kind of like the most caricatured version of blue collar white masculinity imaginable. And at every turn, they are shown to be superior in their courage and their intuition and everything to scientists, to bureaucrats, to the extent that there is a villain in the film beyond the asteroid, which is very funny. The asteroid gets kind of anthropomorphized as the movie goes on. But Keith David's character is the one who's pressing to end the mission and just detonate the nuclear weapon. Keith David, famous black actor. And so sort of like to the extent that there is an antagonist in this film, it is Keith David's sort of black general, a person of authority. You could imagine Pete Hegseth sort of nodding in affirmation when Keith David's character is proven wrong. It's interesting to me that you described this as a George W. Bush movie, and I really want to hear about that, because the first 15 minutes of this film, which first show the asteroids destroying a shuttle and then show an initial asteroid strike on New York City, I was like, that's 9/11.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
That 3 years prior, 3 years and some change prior to actual 9/11, that whole sequence was just sort of like that I remember watching that on television on September 11th, that was 9/11.
Yeah.
And there's even a brief moment where a big character says, we're under attack by Saddam Hussein. Like it's very, which is what people were saying on 9/11.
Yeah.
Right? Like that was a thing that was in the air, infamously. I'll use the word again. But I was just so struck by how eerily it was so evocative of 9/11 that I almost did a double take about when the movie was made.
Yeah. No, I mean, this is the weird thing. Like there is something that we've seen this kind of stuff before where these movies almost seem to be for predicting, prophesizing, or just for imagining, or that there's some kind of attractor of the future, and probably the more empirical scientific explanation is actually these movies may have influenced the plans for these terrorist attacks because of how spectacular they looked, but there's definitely some weird fantasizing in the United States about these kinds of disasters coming, and which probably made it all the more traumatic when it actually did happen, because we had a kind of a script in our mind about how it would go. But yeah, okay. The reason why I think it's George W. Bush movie is just the particular kind of conservatism in the movie. It's like, yeah, like he's these down home guys, and they're all like cowboys or different kinds of sort of blue collar guys, and they don't like the science. Like a lot of the movies from this period that are disaster movies, or like have some. It's a scientist or a person who's kind of like a professional managerial class person who's like the hero, and he's got to like win out over dumbass military people who won't listen to him. This movie's class politics are way different. It's all these kind of like, we're oil drillers and we know what we're doing. We're practical. Yeah. And the movie begins with him like hitting golf balls at Greenpeace protesters who are protesting his oil rig. So it's just like, yeah, extractive industry, oil, Texas, cowboys, showing up the hoity-toity scientists, and it was just felt, but it's not Trumpian populism yet, because it's still like, oh well, America has a global role. It's very like it's this kind of neocon coalition where it's like America is still like the last best hope of Earth. We're still in cooperation with other countries. We're trying to save the world. Kind of linked to this kind of stupid jingoism, stupid kind of right-wing populism about like, oh, well, the bureaucrats and that feels very Bush era to me. Like there was this anti-elitism, and it was like, oh, if you think that Bush is an idiot because the way he talks, like you're dumb. I mean, you're a liberal, like latte sipping elite. It just felt very of that era, of that kind of rhetoric. And, yes, I just want to talk about some of my issues with the movie before we return to this. Actually, he begins the movie, he's shooting a shotgun at the fucking he's shooting a shotgun at Ben Affleck because he catches him in bed with his daughter, Bruce Willis, by the way. What is he shooting at? He's like shooting on an oil rig, and he's shooting like buckshot at him, or like birdshot. Like he's destroying it. That's extremely dangerous. And like he could have any of those, even if you're not aiming directly at somebody with a shotgun, like you can easily kill somebody. Like what is that scene? I was like, this is insane, dude. Like he's going to fucking, like anybody who fires a shotgun at somebody, unless it's birdshot from a very long distance, you could easily kill him. And you're firing a firearm on an oil rig and just blowing open things. That just struck me as absurd immediately. And it was like this movie's addiction to cliches. So it's like, oh yeah, like the farmer like catches the boy in the bed with his daughter, and he chases after him with a shotgun. Like there's just so many cliches like that the audience is supposed to be like, yo, like that's just like, like, well,
John, I was like, that's right.
I mean, no, on a gut level, it is very satisfying because it's almost like Looney Tunes or something like that, where it's like, yeah, I've seen these tropes before and I kind of enjoy it and I know what to expect and I know where the one-liners are going. Like it goes down smooth, but Yeah, I don't know. It was driving me. I was just like, oh my God, I cannot believe this. And the very funny thing was during that Ben Affleck, and I could not stop thinking about this when Ben Affleck said to him, like, he was like, wouldn't it be easier for the oil drillers to train the astronauts to become oil drillers than for the astronauts to train the oil drillers to become astronauts? And Michael Bay told him to shut the fuck up. So, like, I just think it's just, yeah, it's hard to believe that they would send these, like, blue collar misfits into space to do the oil drilling, because oil drilling was so special and so particular that only they could do it. It's just very flattering to the American audiences. And I mean, I think you're going to strongly disagree with me here, but I have to say it. I don't think there's, like, everyone complains about AI slop. I don't think there's that much dividing a Michael Bay movie from AI slop, frankly. I think it's almost as bad. And I get, yeah, he's kind of got a fun, recognizable style. But I would say Jerry Bruckheimer and Michael Bay, to me, are like great artistic villains. I really don't like their movies. I felt this way even at this young age. I was like, these are crap. And I wasn't like reflexively anti-Hollywood. I just think that these were low. This was not a good period for Hollywood. You're more than willing to, I'm more than welcome to, refute that, but that's my feeling about it.
No, people have their taste. The fun thing about this podcast is, in fact, that I totally love this slop.
Yeah.
Part of it is just sort of like, I'm a military brat, and like, there is something, I grew up going to like Blue Angel shows. Like, there's something like Michael Bay's style and his whole thing is like very kind of like, oh yeah, I know this. This is sort of like, this is like the milieu in which I was raised, or in which I grew up. But the other thing is, I do find myself, like, for me, what constitutes cinematic slop is a movie like Triple X State of the Nation, which is the sequel to the first Triple X movie.
I haven't seen that one.
Well, I have.
Yeah.
And it's just like generic, right? There's nothing distinctive about it. It's sort of like, it's neither so bad that you're like, man, you have to see this movie, it's so terrible, like Madam Web last year, which is awful, but it's like awful in a captivating way. It's just kind of like bad, like a kind of a waste of time. And the thing I do appreciate about Bay, who is not some high artist, but who does have a perspective, does have a style. And I think that if you can vibe with sort of like the insane music video kineticism of his best work, which I mean Bay's best work, but like Armageddon, Pain and Gain, and the recent Ambulance are three movies that I find actually really compelling, and sort of like Bay style really works. Like the gonzo-ness of it really works. If you can kind of vibe with that, then like I think you can have a lot of fun. In part because the guy can't direct actors. The scripts are often quite bad, and like he relies a lot on tropes. Like the movies are vehicles for his visual stylings, and not really anything more than that. Bad Boys is another good one. And you can get like, there are times in his career where you get this sort of harmony of both sort of like the people on the screen who kind of get what he's doing and play to it, and the stylings. And I think it can be really compelling. I think this is an example of it being compelling, and the tropiness of it, the fact that like these are all just stock characters. Works for me. I don't know.
It's not difficult to watch.
It's really, I think this is a very easy movie to watch. I mentioned my favorite. I mean, it has a lot of just like stupid lines that I find really enjoyable. Why do you have a gun in space is very funny to me. I already mentioned William Fichtner's, he very dramatic. He has space dementia, about Steve Buscemi's character. It's just, I don't know. It's not a serious movie.
You're right.
It's very self-consciously sort of like a big dumb blockbuster.
Yeah.
And I can vibe with it. I understand people who don't, but I myself can really vibe with it. And I'll say, this is actually weirdly the second time I've watched this in a year. The first because I was at a hotel and just had nothing to do, and it was like on hotel TV, so I had it on while I was doing some work. But I was like, then I kind of was passively watching it. This time I was like actively watching it and trying to sort of like, think about it. And to get back to your original points, like this movie does like it captures some of the conservatism of the 90s, the political conservatism of the 90s. And I think you're very right to say that it very much presages sort of like Bush republicanism, which is right, like is not this. It's not this inward facing, retrenchment. It is this, we are the global leaders and have to act like it. I don't remember exactly what it's called, but Dick Cheney, I believe, wrote a paper in the late 90s that's basically like lamenting the fact that it would take some kind of Pearl Harbor like disaster to get the Americans on board with a project of national greatness. And this movie very much is sort of like, this is a project of national greatness. And what makes America great are our kind of like blue collar, roughneck white men. Like they're the ones
specifically who do oil in the oil industry.
Right? In the oil. Yeah. I mean, this does feel like it was written by some like Houston oil tycoon.
These are very high paid blue collar jobs, which the movie is very keen to point out to you.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Steve Buscemi has a whole thing where he's like, yeah, I'm a genius, but I do this because it pays me a lot of money and I can travel a lot. And there's a line where Bruce Willis says, when you have $5 million of your own money invested in this.
Yeah. Right.
And it's like, yeah, these are like wealthy guys. I mean, if you transpose these guys to the present, these are all Trump voters.
Oh, for sure.
This is like the MAGA base.
Yeah. It's like a, petty bourgeois businessmen that, who, have like a specialized company, but not necessarily a college degree. A family business. What was I going to say? Oh, the most like libertarian Republican like applause line in the movie is, "I never want to pay taxes ever again." Like as in return for like his services, he's like demands no longer paying taxes. And I bet like the audiences were just supposed to like hoot and holler at that, be like, "Yeah, no more tax." So it's just like, yeah, I was like, this movie, and it's a little different. I mean, like, Hollywood movies definitely skew a little bit liberal. And this movie was notably, I was like, yeah, this is something that Republicans, and the fact that it was so popular, it really does have this eerie, presaging of both Bush and 9/11. It was just like, this movie kind of like encapsulated the aesthetic of the coming era, and the themes or something of the coming era before it did. This massive disaster, this idea of national unity, the certain types of politics of the movie. And yeah, it's very difficult to understand unless you believe in something called like zeitgeist or something, how that actually happens. But yeah, I mean, I guess I was just a little less entertained, obviously, by this than you. And I was just a little bit like, I also just find a lot of like, this movie is 2.5 hours long. Like, it's long.
It is a long movie.
It doesn't need to be this long, in my opinion. And I'm a little closer to Roger Ebert's view, who said, what did he say about this? Critical. Roger Ebert said the movie is an assault on the eyes, the ears, the brain, common sense, and the human desire to be entertained. I guess I would agree with everything except the last one, because it is pretty entertaining, I suppose. Also, the scientific accuracy of this movie, which I was interested in. So the idea in the movie is they drill a hole in the asteroid and put a hydrogen bomb in it. And apparently they did actually studied the idea of whether this was feasible in the Telegraph. And it says, a mathematical analysis of the situation that found that for Willis's approach to be effective, he would need to be in possession of an H-bomb 1 billion times stronger than the Soviet Union's Big Ivan. Yvonne, the biggest ever detonated on Earth, using estimates of the asteroid size. The asteroid is enormous. It's supposed to be like the size of Texas in the movie, which is way bigger than it needs to be to destroy the Earth, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I mean, an asteroid the size of, like, I don't know, fucking Maine
would probably
or Rhode Island would do a pretty good job of, like, wrecking our shit.
Using estimates of the asteroid's size, density, and speed and distance from Earth, based on information in the film, the postgraduate students from Leicester University found that to split the asteroid in two, with both pieces clearing Earth, would require 800 trillion terajoules of energy. In contrast, the total energy output of Big Ivan, that's the big Russian H-bomb, which was tested by the Soviet Union in 1961, was only 418,000 terajoules. So yeah, this would not have actually worked. Surprise, surprise. What was I going to go with that? Oh, I don't know. Wait, I had a follow-up point to this. I just, it's gone.
The other thing, this is like a minor note in the movie, but there's when they're being asked, when the oil drillers are being asked what is it they want out of the government, one of them says the true story of how JFK died. And I just, one of the through lines of the movies we've done on this show is simply the kind of mainstream conspiracism, which is like part of like a larger cynicism about government, and like what the oil drillers are just profoundly cynical about government. There is this scene where Bruce Willis's character almost freaks out. He's like, what do you mean you're telling us that you want us to do this? Don't you guys have like scientists, fancy people and the like to do this kind of thing? And the movie is like, no, they don't, right? The movie's perspective on government is simply they're like, actually, no, there is all of the expertise and competence you assume must be there are not actually there. Yeah. And although that is a very conservative coded message, it's not entirely wrong. So Lindsey Graham died on Sunday.
Oh yeah.
We will discuss this on our politics show, but Lindsey Graham died on Sunday, and there's a quote that was circulating from him that was in a Richard Fontaine piece in The Atlantic about Graham as foreign policy guy. And this is Graham speaking. Quote, when I was first elected to the House, I looked for the they who run things, they who know how things really work, they who know what they are doing. But I couldn't find the they. I went to the Senate, but there's still no they. And then I started to get invited to the White House and to closed-door briefings and to meetings with top officials. No they. What I finally realized is that there is no they. There's only we, and we usually don't know what the fuck we're doing. And that's true. That's not wrong. And I think that this movie very much like encapsulates that as kind of a perspective. Where it becomes like right wing, it's sort of like, well, the people who we should trust are blue collar, salt of the earth white men. They're the ones who have the knowledge necessary to do what needs to be done.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's that is extremely like, private sector and these and people who do things with their hands. It's very, very of a piece with that, with the underlying politics of the movie. And I think that what I was going to say is also, I have a question for you before I say this.
Yes.
I didn't catch this. Did they put, because I know that there was some editing thing. Did they edit out the scene where the World Trade Centers are like in flames in this movie in the version we watched?
They might have, because there is supposed to be a scene where an asteroid hits the World Trade Centers.
There's a still I'm looking at that shows. It shows both of them like in flames and having hit. So I didn't catch it, but it might have been taken out. But yeah, okay. The other thing is like I could see if you just have these like images in your head and you kind of like these things kind of feel familiar. I can understand how this almost feels. This would contribute to the conspiracy theory tendency of people around 9/11, because you're like it's a little too on the nose. It feels a little too familiar, right? It's just like there's something that, since it's so close to the fantasy, you're like, this feels like it was planned, or it feels a little uncanny in that way. That was the only thing I was going to say. It sort of contributed to the sense of unrealness of the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's right. And you mentioned earlier the way, the potential that there's sort of a relationship between this Hollywood spectacle and the actual plots, right? That the guys plotting this stuff, they watch Hollywood blockbusters too. And when 9/11 happened, it was metabolized as something out of Hollywood, like something out of a Jerry Bruckheimer film. Or a Tom Clancy novel. Dead of Honor, which is a 94 Tom Clancy book in the Jack Ryan series, where someone flies a plane into the White House, kills the president, Jack Ryan becomes president.
Isn't there Michael Crichton too? Wasn't there Michael Crichton? I don't know. Maybe I'm getting them confused, but yeah.
But I mean, what you see throughout the 90s is first this fascination with the idea of like major landmarks in the United States being destroyed, which I kind of attribute just to sort of, it's a product of the feeling of invincibility, right? So like, we've won this great conflict. We're not worried about nuclear war anymore. And you can like almost like fantasize about what it would be like if aliens destroyed the Empire State Building, like we see in Independence Day, or if asteroids destroyed Midtown Manhattan, which is what happens in this movie. So I think there's some of that. But then also, I mean, I suppose, I don't know, there's like this, there is this throughout kind of like literal pulp fiction in Hollywood, this kind of constant returning to terrorist attacks destroying major American landmarks that obviously isn't, I think when we think realistically about this, it's all just a big coincidence, but it does feel like there's just something in the air that because of 9/11 we recognize as being like significant. I will say, as I look at the plot synopsis for Dead of Honor, I'm kind of surprised they haven't tried to adapt this one into a movie.
Japan is involved in this one. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, this is very early 90s Japan panic.
Yeah. Japan is going to do 9/11. Japanese people are going to do 9/11. That's funny fantasy.
Right. So I mean, I'm going to read the concluding paragraph of this Wikipedia entry. And honestly, John, I might find an audiobook of this and listen to it because I'm fascinated by it. Okay. Throughout the book, President Durling faces another political crisis. Durling. Vice President Ed Kilty is forced to resign after being accused of rape. Parenthetical, that wouldn't happen. With the crisis over, President Durling nominates Ryan as vice president for successfully handling the crisis. However, an embittered Japan Airlines pilot, driven mad by the deaths of his son and brother during the conflict, flies his Boeing 747 directly into the U.S. Capitol during a special joint session of Congress. The president, as well as nearly the entire Congress, Supreme Court, and many other members of the federal government are all killed in the attack. Did you ever watch the show Lone Survivor? Not Lone Survivor. Is it that way called Lone Survivor? No, Lone Survivor is a bad movie. Designated Survivor. There we go. This is this is a television series from like 10 years ago about a terrorist attack destroying the Capitol during the State of the Union. And Kiefer Sutherland, who's like he's the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, which white guy? Interesting. Because Trump always makes a black person bad.
Yeah, that's like the Department of Blacks.
Yeah, Department of Blacks. He becomes president. And I believe the plotters were like crazed white supremacists. Anyway, yeah, so that's just it's in the air. I think Armageddon is very much an example of how this is all in the air. And it's like obviously like a particularly stupid example of it, but I think you're right to point out the kind of the way this very much seems to sort of be in line with like Bush conservatism. But I will say the way that the opening is very evocative of 9/11. Okay. I think we've already said our piece on this movie. I feel like most of the people listening to this have seen Armageddon, so I don't think there's any need to kind of do a final, you should watch it, you should not. I think it's very much a movie that is sort of like, it is in the pantheon of like prototypical 90s blockbusters, whatever you think of it. Interestingly enough, there has not been like a recent restoration or a 4K release, which I do find interesting. But it's easy to find if you want to watch it. I own a copy of it. And it's easy to view. Thank you as always for listening. Please rate and review us wherever you find us, whether that's Apple Podcasts or whatever service, Spotify. The ratings and reviews really do help people find the show. You can reach out to us for feedback at unclearandpresentfeedback@fastmail.com. That's unclearandpresentfeedback@fastmail.com. For this week in feedback, interestingly, all of our feedback is from our Patreon show, but I think we have one that is relevant for the main feed. This is from Raphael. Hello, guys. I'm a great fan, and because you're going to talk about Ronin soon, and I never come around to write in a timely manner after you release an episode, I thought I should write in early. Frankenheimer's 1998 Ronin is a great movie, but it also has two special links to East Germany, the former GDR. After reunification, a kind of soft purge of elites happened, which was welcomed by most East Germans at first. But 8 years after the event, there was a notable need for persons the population could look up to and claim as their heroes. This was the time of Henry Mask, Jens, I'm sorry, I cannot pronounce these German names, Jens Weibblog, and Katharina Witt. All three dominated their sports, had records for the ages, and brought specifically East German biographies into the international spotlight. They also all three had a pronounced image of cleanliness, gentlemanliness, and humble modesty. East Germans could point to them and say, we, not the West Germans, are bringing home the Olympic gold medals. We are the ones who bring fame and glory and respect to Germany as a whole. Katie Witt being in a Hollywood movie was a big thing at the time. Interestingly, she's playing a Russian. Stellan Skarsgård's identity, on the other hand, is never really made clear. At least I don't think they ever say out loud what he is. But by all indications, it is obvious that he is playing a former Stasi agent. This is the other connection to East Germany, and I wonder how many former citizens of the GDR saw the movie for Katie Witt and were appalled by the Stasi goon, and how many secretly rooted for their compatriot. Thank you, Raphael. We are getting to Ronin quite soon, although we might have to make a bit of a detour. I was adjusting the list a little bit, and we might have a couple episodes before Ronin, but Ronin is coming up, which we did at a live show like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
But Ronin will be up on the podcast soon. Thank you for the email. That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that movie. I can't wait to watch it. We'll discuss it.
Yes. Episodes come out every 2 weeks. And so our next episode is going to be the other asteroid movie of 1998, Deep Impact.
Great.
Directed by Mimi Leder.
I've actually never seen that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Mimi Leder. I do not quite remember how you say her last name, but she directed a previous movie in our series, The Peacemaker. Also a movie that I like. We're not going to do for the show, but I enjoy it. It's called Marked for Murder. It stars Powers Booth and Billy D. Williams. And it's a TV movie, kind of a failed pilot, but I enjoy it quite a bit. It has Michael Ironside in it too. Really, listen, what I'm saying is if you just need to watch 90 minutes of something that's just kind of trash, this is the kind of thing you want to watch. So we're going to do Deep Impact. A quick plot synopsis. A 7-mile wide space rock is hurtling towards Earth, threatening to obliterate the entire planet. Now it's up to the President of the United States to save the world. He appoints a tough-as-nails veteran astronaut to lead a joint American-Russian crew into space to destroy the comet before impact. Meanwhile, an enterprising reporter uses her smarts to uncover the scoop of the century. This stars Robert Duvall, Téa Leoni, Elijah Wood, Vanessa Redgrave, Morgan Freeman, Jon Favreau, Lily Sobieski, Blair Underwood. A lot of folks in another movie with lots of guys. And so that should be good fun. And we can compare and contrast the films. So that's next up on the main feed. Over at the Patreon, we have an episode on Hannah Arendt, the 2012 kind of biopic. Upcoming episode is going to be Sidney Lumet's The Pawnbroker. We're doing kind of post-war Holocaust series. And I guess, as I said, what we will at some point watch both The Order and talk radio, movies about 80s white supremacists. So stay tuned for that. The Patreon, you can reach at Unclear. Rather, you can reach at patreon.com/unclearpod. And it's $5 a month for basically at this point, we're doing like a weekly politics show and then 2 episodes a month. So sort of like 6 episodes a month, a lot of extra content. Highly recommend it. All right. I think that's all. As always, thank you for listening. For John Gans, I'm Jamelle Bowie, and we'll see you next time.